This week, the reason that we love the internet, it's a little different than what we usually do, but the reason we love the internet is because we like to use the internet as a place where we can watch Andrew Seidel troll Ken Ham. So it's right. I mean, I think that this is kind of awesome what we're going to have you talk about, Andrew. So Andrew has been on our show. This is your third time talking to us. So
I love you guys. What can I say?
Well, we're very happy to have you back. So Andrew, can you introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are? And if they don't, well, I don't know what rock they're living under, but yeah.
Sure. So I'm a staff attorney at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, FFRF. So basically I defend the wall of separation between state and church for a living, stand up for atheists. Basically I use my law degree to stand down religious bullies for a living. It's pretty fun.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're incredibly angry and you just want to shit all over anybody who disagrees with you.
I think that's a fair summation of what I just said, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Dan gave the alternative fact version of what you just said. So, all right. So there is a new commercial that is just put out by FFRF.
That's correct.
That's what you're here to talk about. And where'd you shoot this commercial?
So we actually went to Kentucky, to Ken Ham's Ark Encounter, to shoot a commercial at this creationist stronghold, this monument to ignorance. And we're using it to get people to join the fight against that ignorance.
So I just want to know, how did you manage to shoot a commercial for the Freedom from Religion Foundation at a place that is just a monument to religious insanity?
Sure. So they're really open about letting people come into the park, and you're allowed to video and take pictures of just about everything except for the actual movies that they have playing in the park itself. It says it right there on their website. It says it on the ticket stub. They're completely open about it. And, we had a little microphone and we had a little camera, so we weren't, terribly obvious about it. I was walking around carrying my trusty, well-thumbed Bible. I was using it to cross-check Ken Ham on his citations, and it turned out to be like the perfect camouflage. Because if you're carrying one of these and kind of just talking to yourself, which is probably what I looked like, then most people just ignore you. So it worked out pretty well for us.
It's like, oh, he's just another visitor, just doing his thing, doing his Bible thing. Let me just ask you, was Ken Ham totally right on with all his facts?
He was not. I mean, not with the facts for sure. And even if you're trying to be a biblical literalist, he missed a few things. The ark is supposed to be covered in pitch, which is like this black tar-like substance inside and out. That was completely missing, which I was disappointed. It's like, that's how it's waterproofed. And then it was also, the best part of the Noah story really is the ending. And Ken Ham didn't mention the ending really at all. So if everybody remembers, after the whole flood and all that shenanigans happens, they land, and then Noah plants the first vineyard. It's a very, very exciting time. He gets drunk and passes out like the drunken sailor that he is. And then his son...
Oh, I never thought of it like that. I never thought of him as a drunken sailor.
Yeah, the first drunken sailor, absolutely. And then his son Ham walks in on him, drunk, passed out, naked, right? Because that's what you do when you pass out drunk. And later on, Noah wakes up and he's so infuriated at his son for seeing him naked that he curses his son's son to a life of slavery. Okay, so this is...
As you do.
Yeah, and this is his own grandson who he's cursing to a life of slavery because he got drunk and passed out naked.
And so there's like a dozen people on the planet at this point, and you're going to just curse one of them to slavery?
Yeah.
Like,
it was just 8, right?
And he's a close family member. He's an innocent child. He even if you think Ham did something wrong, the kid didn't do anything wrong, right? So I mean, and that all ties in nicely with the fact that this is the man that God thought was the only person worth saving on the entire planet, right? Like, the guy who curses an innocent child to a life of slavery is the only moral person who should be saved. And of course, that's because God isn't deciding things based on who's moral and who's not. He's deciding things based on who believes in him and who doesn't. So, righteousness isn't equated with morality even in the Bible. Anyway, yeah, so Noah is
finite.
A monster.
It's finite.
Yeah, absolutely. So Noah's a monster. This Ark Park is just the most defensive place I think I've ever visited. And we went and filmed a commercial there to shout atheism from the rooftops.
So like that, I mean, that just in itself is fucking awesome that you're like, let's film a commercial to, promote reason and logic and all of that stuff at a place that is just a monument to pseudoscience and irrationality and just like a really distorted worldview that people probably shouldn't have in 2017.
Yeah, I mean, it's a monument to ignorance. That's the phrase that kept running through my head the entire time I was walking through it. It really is.
And so, so people like, I mean, I assume most of our listeners of like our show know what the Ark Encounter is or whatever, but like there's some reasons why, I mean, it's like, it's annoying that it exists for the reasons of, that we've already talked about, but like there's other things like taxpayer money, how they get public schools to like send their kids for $1. Can you like talk a little bit about why we should care that this exists?
Sure. And this is one of the things that FFRF has worked really hard to fight. So right when the Ark opened up, we actually got a report that day on the grand opening that a public school participated in the grand opening. The band went and marched and played, which was a huge problem. Public schools cannot take their students to a place that says the Bible is literally true. And Ken Ham has been explicit about this. The only purpose of the Ark Park is to convert people to that particular brand of Christianity. So it is a completely off-limits place in terms of public schools. So actually, I wrote a letter for FFRF that we sent to every public school in a 5-state radius to make sure that they knew they weren't allowed to take their students to this Ark Park. In response, Ken Ham lowered the price for every public school student to $1. So this is a very real concern. And we've actually tangled with a couple school board employees and school board representatives who they didn't actually try to implement a trip, but they thought they could kind of argue with us over that, and they were mistaken. So we've worked really hard to ensure that no public school has gone to the Ark, and so far we think we've accomplished that. It's a really awful place, just in terms of how its worldview, its outlook, and to expose children to that is awful enough in itself. But on top of that, the constitutional violation, and it's a huge legal problem for any school district.
And then you take it like a step further, even to their like hiring practices, right?
Sure.
At the park, like they won't just accept anybody to work there, right?
No, you have to be a young earth creationist to work there, which means you have to believe everything that they believe. You have to be their particular brand of Christianity. You can't be LGBT, you can't be a non-Christian. So it's hugely problematic, especially given the federal funds, or excuse me, the state funds and the local funds that are tied up in the park. And they actually haven't been paying off because the place is empty. Really, when we were there, it was one of the reasons we were able to do it so easily. It wasn't just me walking around with a Bible. The place was empty. I mean, we saw maybe 50 people, and if you check out the blog that we wrote about it and see some of the videos, half the people that I saw there were they were workers, the contractors who were trying to expand the park to accommodate all these crowds that don't exist. And that's partly because Ham really misrepresented the attendance figures when he was proposing this park and looking for public money.
Well, and so, that being said, like he was proposing this thing, right, that was going to bring tourists and was going to bring like probably some kind of economic like boom to this area, and it's not really working.
No, it really hasn't happened. There really hasn't been anything. And just a quick side note too, we've talked about the public money going to it, and it's a little complicated. And I go over some of this on the blog post, and a lot of information available on Friendly Atheist as well. But the bottom line is that this was challenged in court, and the reason that the challenge stopped was because a new, very conservative Christian governor won election in Kentucky. And it's like, I can't remember the voting turnout, but I think it was 1/3 or fewer of Kentucky voters actually turned out in that election to vote. And that's probably one of the reasons that the public money hasn't been able to challenge. It's a very difficult thing to challenge legally, and the state was challenging it. That's one of the reasons that we're not pursuing that further yet.
So what I like, you've been there, you've seen it, kind of vacant and all of that. It still exists, whatever. Like, what's your prediction for the future of this thing? I know, Ken Ham talks a big game, but like, is this just going to become like this barren Ark wasteland at some point?
I think it will. All the estimates show the attendance kind of going up and then peaking sort of around year 1 or 2, and then sliding off and continuing to slide off, and then maybe hitting a kind of level. But based on what I saw, and again, I didn't go on a busy day, I didn't go on a weekend. But based on what I saw, I don't think that this place is going to be around for very long. I can't imagine. I think the real question is, what are we going to turn it into when it's done? Or how long can Ken Ham prop it up, using his private money and private donations and things like that. So, I mean, I've seen a casino floated. I've seen a hotel floated. Those ideas.
Floating.
No pun intended. Sorry.
We like
when we had David Silverman on a while back, and I know he said he wouldn't mind moving the American Atheist headquarters there too. So I know that's out there, and I think we could start a GoFundMe for that when it gets to that point.
I mean, there's a huge amount of space in there. Not if you're, an animal or, 8,000 or 10,000 animals.
All the animals.
Yeah, but if
we only needed 7,000 different kinds.
Yeah.
You saw the signs.
Yeah, I saw the signs. Yeah, I don't remember where kinds fit in the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species.
Oh, they don't.
Nomenclature. Yeah.
It seemed don't you dare ask them to explain it either.
Because science doesn't fit in to any of it.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, and my favorite sign in the whole place was there. I think it was how do they keep the polar bears cool? Mm-hmm. It's one of the first signs, and it's basically just like, just don't ask questions. Just the Bible's right, no questions, and then you'll believe everything that we believe, and it's just mind blowing.
Because the answer to everything really is just because God.
Yes.
Like that's kind of it. And so they live their lives like in this, just because God. Here's a boat that won't float, but like, because God, this all is a real thing, sort of. And it's so weird.
And if you're not able to watch the video right now, we're showing the actual I guess that's outside, and that was like you said, this was the very first thing that I saw when I got in, and I felt like it set the tone for the entire thing, because it's just saying skeptics often mock the concept of the Ark and its animals, so they develop questions designed to make the Ark look foolish. You're leading out like with this, and it is. I would expect you to start like with your strongest representation of whatever point you're trying to make.
You don't need skeptics' questions to make the Ark look foolish.
Right, exactly.
You've built this full-scale replica, and you needed 84 concrete columns to keep it supported. It looks foolish just sitting out there on its own, there was another really great sign in there too that was in the one thing that I thought was hilarious was there's a pre-flood section of the museum, and there's one sign in there. It's this artist rendering of, because God killed everybody because they were all so evil and awful. Yeah. Right? That was the whole point of killing all the people and every single animal on earth. Nice.
Let's have a do-over. I fucked up the first time. Let's do this over.
Genocide, mass extinction, all good. Yeah. So to show how evil men were, there's a picture of a dude with a triceratops horn, and he's holding it up, and he's super, super happy and gleeful that he has killed this triceratops to cut off its horn. But if you look back, really what they're showing is men are evil because they're killing animals. That's really the message of this particular painting, which is exactly what God is doing in the entire Ark. He's killing all the animals, right? So that means that according to your version of what is evil, God is the evilest mofo out there.
God is the evilest mofo out there. I think that just sums it all up, and there's a theme park to prove it. And so
I think one of my my favorite, just the beginning of the second floor, and we'll show it here on the video, the fairy tale ark.
Oh yeah, that room is great.
But like also like it's its own meme. Like we don't even have to do anything with that. Like,
and that was the one thing that they didn't shy away from that I thought they were going to. You know, they really didn't shy away from the genocide aspect of it, right?
You can't hide that. You can't hide the genocide. It's like everybody died.
But
like,
that's what this room is complaining about. It's complaining about how all these fairy tale books don't focus on the genocide, and I was kind of surprised by it. And
he's saying that it's not supposed to be a happy story, and like this makes it. He's like, this is what makes the Ark look ridiculous to skeptics. This is the part that we have all these fairy tale stories and children's books, and no, they need to, like, kids like fucking need to know, like, some shit went down, a lot of people died, and then we all like came from 8 people fucking each other.
Yeah,
is he like trolling himself? It's like it's crazy that like this dude believes this stuff and is like, everybody should believe this stuff.
Well, I mean, the cognitive dissonance that it takes is really amazing, and the leaps and just the lengths that they go to explain why this story is true when there's such a simpler explanation is amazing. You know, it is kind of fun for a moment to take the whole story seriously and then think about the implications. Like I did just some back of the napkin calculations, because it says in the Bible that the flood covered the top of the tallest mountain in 15 cubits of water, which means Mount Everest was covered in 22 feet of water. So I was like,
we can measure that. We can do the math.
So I did the math on that, and that's like, you need 10 more Atlantic Oceans to rain down in 40 days. Like, no, it's just not happening.
No.
But it goes back to what you're saying earlier, which was right. Well, the answer's God. Like, so I've explained it.
Well, see, and that's the thing. It's like, I totally get that back in the day, people had to make up stories when they didn't know, because they didn't have explanations, right? Like, but now we know.
We have a much
how
better
things
explanation.
happen. We have much more evidence to kind of explain things, and that in itself is really cool. What we know about the world and the universe and how we all got here is really fucking cool. And so, to need a fairy tale and to hold on to that, like, that's kind of sad to me, that they're still stuck.
Sure. And I think the thing for everybody to realize is that religion is just a set of ideas. We kind of hold them up higher than that, you know, and we label them beliefs, and that's fine, they are. But really, all you need to do is get somebody to change their mind, right? And this is the best way to think about this: is a lot of atheists were once believers. You know, they didn't gain 50 IQ points overnight. You know, they didn't go to have some huge breakthrough in therapy to cure some mental disease. All they really did was change their mind. And it took questions and discussions and, you know, these skeptical ideas that Ken Ham wants to shut down right at the beginning of his Ark Park on that polar bear sign. All it takes is more and more and more of those. And eventually, you know, that mind is gonna have to change. I really do think that. I don't think that even a mind like Ken Ham's can stand up to it. I don't think there's a point of no return. It's just a question of getting through to it, getting through all the defenses that the religious set of ideas has developed for itself over the years.
And so there's optimism there, that people can think and people can change their minds, and that's where, you know, I want to, you know, close out again by saying, like we always tell you, like, awesome work that FFRF does, that you do. Advocating for reason, for, like, in your commercial, advocating for science education, for critical thinking, and all of that. So if our
not even just for atheists or agnostics, that's like these things also, these laws also protect those who do have religious, the Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindu, like whatever you are, like we're also protecting those, because what can easily happen if we allow things like this to go on is now only my brand of Christianity, or, like, in this case, creationism, that's the only belief system that we're going to allow now, or that we're going to favor. And so that puts even, it's almost like we want people to make up their own minds and live their own lives.
Exactly. And I hope everybody really does go watch the commercial. You know, we put a lot of work into it, and I hope they consider joining the Freedom from Religion Foundation afterwards. We really do depend on people's support. You know, we don't have any big donors. I got George Soros. Obviously, he's out there, but he's not funding us, despite all the right-wing claims. So we depend on, the $40 a year that everybody donates. So that's what we need. So please join us if you're interested in protecting science-based education.
Cool. And so we'll link to the commercial in our show notes,
Great.
all that kind of stuff. And if people want to find you on Twitter, Facebook, where can they look?
So FFRF has a Twitter and a Facebook, which is just FFRF, and then mine is Andrew L. Seidel. There's actually a poor Andrew Seidel who teaches at the Dallas Theological Seminary. And he's never answered any of my emails. He's been there for 40 years. And so I try to use my middle initial to not besmirch his good name, but I think it's too late. So. All
right. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for talking to us. And I'm sure you'll be back sometime.
I hope so. I love coming on with you guys.
Cool. All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.
We definitely have links to your blog and to the video in the description of this video right now. So if you're watching, go click on those, watch those, share them with your friends, loved ones, dog, cat, whoever.
Far and wide.
Equal access.
You're dinosaur kind.
You're kind.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Sure. Thanks for watching.